Warm welcome to you all to this, the first in a series of the new collaboration between EBBF and M.Ed. We are very excited about it. And just in 2 words, EBBF has been around for about 30 years. What we do is to basically help and create spaces where people can explore the application of Baha'i values in workplaces, new economic systems, and so forth. People of all faith joining. And we have a wonderful group of members and with different interests and affinities. And one of them is Sara DeHoff, who will be running today's first in this webinar series. Collaboration through consultation is the topic that we'll be hearing from Sara about. Sara's earned this M.Ed from Harvard, and it's very interesting. The life that she led has meant that she studied in China, Japan, Taiwan, Czech Republic, and obviously now based in the US. So I'm sure she has a lot of interest and insights about consultation in very different environments. I asked her what brought you to consultation? Why is that of interest to you? And she noticed she was working at the MIT's U Lab in a transformational change process, and that it really became starkly clear to her the role of consultation was just so useful in terms of not just effectively making decisions, but also incredibly effective in creating learning together. So I think it's a very timely topic. We hear a lot about consultation, but I'm just really keen to hear from Sara about the new elements and new insight that she's going to be offering to us. So Sara, please, looking forward to hearing from you. Just one word. We're going to have Sara present for 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes. And then down on the bottom of the screen, you can hopefully see the Q&A button. And that's where you can post your questions that we will then relay on to Sara for the Q&A session of the second part of this 1-hour call. Sara.
There's an old Native American story about a grandfather who's talking to his grandson. And he tells the boy that there's a fight, and it's between 2 wolves, and one wolf is dark. It's ego and greed and pride and envy. And the other wolf is light, and that wolf is joy and generosity and humility. And these 2 wolves are fighting, and they're always fighting, and each one is trying to overpower the other. And the little boy listens to this story, and he thinks for a little bit, and he looks up at his grandfather, and his eyes are big, and he says, "But grandfather, which one will win?" And the grandfather says, "The one that you feed." And we have these 2 wolves fighting in our world. There are 2 processes that are going on. Consultation is a tool that feeds the light wolf, and we need more of these kinds of tools at this time in our society. So we're going to talk about consultation today, and this is a process of learning together for groups to come together and share views, to develop solutions to complex problems. It's a tool for building community and building teams. Consultation is the Baha'i community's contribution to the world's wisdom about working together. And it was first described by Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith. He talks about how consultation is a light that shines in the darkness. Consultation bestoweth greater awareness and transmuteth conjecture into certitude. It is a shining light which in a dark world leadeth the way and guideth. We have many needs for this kinds of light in this society that we're in right now. So some of the key points of consultation, there are some fundamental principles about consultation. And the first thing is the oneness of humankind. We are all one people. We are all one human family. So Abdu'l-Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, described the human race as a body, a human body. And it's a wonderful model because in the human body, we have different kinds of cells. We've got brain cells and blood cells and heart cells and muscle cells. And all of those cells do a different job. And they all work together. no one of those cells can live outside the body. And the body isn't fully functional. It doesn't function well unless all of those cells are working together. So in looking at consultation, the oneness of humankind is a fundamental part of the mental construct around which we use this tool. If we're thinking about all of the people that we're working with, that we're talking with, that we're consulting with as part of one whole, then we're going to be able to work together better, and we're going to be able to make better decisions. Another one of the fundamental principles in consultation is building harmony. We've got, in a team, you have a variety of different individuals, and people have different ways of doing things, different ways of thinking things, different ways of going about things. And it's easy to get hung up on the differences. But one of the important things here is to look beyond those differences, to see each person as, all the team members as champions of truth, as part of a whole, part of moving an issue or a process forward. Abdu'l-Baha, again, he talks about how we are all, that the first condition in consultation is absolute love and harmony amongst the members. For they are the waves of one sea, the drops of one river, the stars of one heaven, the rays of one sun, the trees of one orchard, the flowers of one garden. The other piece that is involved here is that we see each other as part of a whole, but we also look beyond ourselves and we turn to source. In the Baha'i community, we talk about turning to God. And if that's not your orientation, there's still value in looking at what is beyond, what transcends us as individuals. If we all stand around in a circle and point to the sun, then we're all pointing at the same point. And if we, as we move closer to that single point, to that point that transcends all of us, then we move closer together as well. So these two things are important in consultation: building harmony, that harmony and love amongst the members, but also tapping into that spirit that transcends all of us and looking into something that is beyond ourselves. Another piece that's important in consultation is doing your inner work. This requires developing those inner spiritual qualities of service and patience and humility and detachment. Abdu'l-Baha talks about these are the prime requisites in consultation. These are essential in effective consultation. He says the prime requisites for them that take counsel together are purity of motive, radiance of spirit, detachment from all else save God, attraction to his divine fragrances, humility and lowliness amongst his loved ones, patience and long suffering in difficulties, and servitude to his exalted threshold. And as I was working with these materials on consultation, I realized that these are universal truths. These are universal concepts that have been, that wise people throughout history have talked about. And in fact, Lao Tzu talks about this humility. He says, the sage stays behind, thus he is ahead. He is detached, thus at one with all. Through selfless action, he attains fulfillment. So in consultation, there's these two elements, these two processes. The individual is developing these qualities within himself, and the group, it benefits from that individual effort, but also creates an environment that is conducive to developing those qualities. And so it's the interplay between the individual and the group that's part of what makes consultation a really effective tool. So those are the main concept, the underlying principles of consultation. And now we'll talk about the process of consultation, because there are several steps involved. And the first thing is to express your view. And in consultation, each person is to describe what they see about the issue or the problem or the situation that you're consulting about. And it's important for everyone in the group to express their view. And so there again, that interplay with the individual and the group. The individual has the responsibility for sharing that view, and the group has a responsibility for creating a space that makes that possible. And so no one is allowed to belittle another person's view. If someone expresses an opposite view, then you don't feel offended by it, because it's only by looking at it from all sides that the group is going to get a good grasp of the reality of that situation and come to a good decision about it. The flip side of expressing your view is letting go of it. And Abdu'l-Baha talks about this. He says they must in every matter to search out the truth and not insist on their own opinion. This is sometimes the most challenging part of consultation, because when I've looked and studied a problem and thought about it a lot, I've come to some ideas or some insights about it. I put a lot of effort into that, and it's important to me, and so I share that. But what's also important is then to let go of it, because then the group can take all of those views and sort and sift and mix and match them and come up with a sound, complete picture of the situation. But if we hang on to our views, it's kind of like playing with Legos. You know, everybody has a pile of bricks. And if we hang on to our views, then what we end up with is just a bunch of piles of bricks. But if we take our Lego bricks and we offer them to the group, we put them in the center, then we have a much larger pool to draw from. And we can build all kinds of things with those bricks. We can build a spaceship or a city or a skyscraper. And so that's why it's important in consultation to express your view and let it go, so that the group has all of this information, all of these views, all of these perspectives to draw from to come to a conclusion about the situation or the problem that you're consulting about. And that leads us to the point of consultation is to seek truth. It is to look at something from all sides. We have experience in society of individuals imposing their truth on someone or a group, and this is a distortion, because truth is one thing. It's like light. There are many lamps that light can shine in, but it's still light. If everybody has a different color of light and you shine it into the same spot, if you have a red flashlight and a blue flashlight and green flashlight and all shine those lights in the same spot, then you get closer to white light. You get closer to truth. So the aim of consultation is to understand a situation, understand the reality of a situation at a deeper and deeper level, to get closer and closer to truth about that situation. When a group has gathered all that information, gathered all those views, and come to an understanding about the situation, then it is ready to make a decision and choose a course of action on that, around that problem or around that situation. Once the decision is made in consultation, then it's important for everyone to support the decision. Even if you disagree with the decision, it's still important to support it, because it is in that unity that the wisdom of the decision will become clear. If things start falling apart, if people undermine the decision afterwards, and start talking to other people and saying, "Oh, that was a bad thing," then it's not clear if the action failed because there was disunity in the group or because it was actually a bad decision. But if everyone gets behind it and everyone supports it, whether they agree or not, then it very quickly becomes clear. If it's a bad decision, it very quickly becomes clear, and then the group can come back together again and make a new decision. So it's this continual process of understanding, make a decision, take action, reflect on it, and make another decision if needed. Abdu'l-Baha talks about this too. He says, even if the decision is wrong, as it is in unity, the truth will be revealed and the wrong made right. And so that's, in a nutshell, that's consultation, the basic concepts of consultation. It is something that it is a continual learning process. It's something that there are no experts in this. We're all learning how to do it, and we're all learning how to do it better. But the power of it is, I think, summed up in Margaret Mead's quote here: never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And to end with here, if you want to learn more about consultation, I have a new book on Amazon called Collaboration Through Consultation. There's the link here. It goes into more detail about these concepts and these principles, provides stories and ways to apply it in your group or in your team or in your family even, and ways to reflect on your progress and what you've accomplished and what you've learned. So that's it for consultation, and we're opening it up now for questions, and I look forward to hearing from you.
There's a couple of questions. The first one comes from Randy Johnson, and I'm going to read it out to you, Sarah. Can true consultation really take place when you're consulting with those who, for instance, do not necessarily believe in the oneness of humanity or willing to show humility? Is it that we just reach as high as we can? Can you expound on techniques for facilitating successful consultation in those specific situations?
That's an excellent question. And I think we, first of all, nobody is an expert in consultation. So just make sure that we know that. We're all learning. And so we're all at various stages in this process of understanding how to put this tool to work. And so some people are at the very beginning of this process, and many of these concepts are new to them, or even concepts that they disagree with. But I think it's still possible to make progress. One of the most powerful parts of consultation, at least in my mind, is listening. And so even if people disagree with all of the concepts of consultation, you can still listen to them. And that is a powerful thing, because when people start to feel heard, then they're more likely to be open to other ways of looking at things or other ideas or other approaches. So yes, I think we can make progress, and it depends on the situation, it depends on the people, but we can take whatever piece of this consultative process seems appropriate in that situation and with that people and focus on that. And it may just simply be that we are the ones who are modeling it, who are offering it. And it may not be a conscious decision or something that is consciously adopted by that person or that group, but simply by modeling these principles, by modeling these approaches, we are plowing the ground really for things, for people to be open to another way of operating as a group.
And there's a bit of frustration coming from Mike Saxton. So he says his biggest frustration in consultation is not so much that people disagree with what I express, but that they're not listening to what he's saying. He feels it's not being heard. It's probably not just his problem, but you're expressing your thoughts. You don't want to agree or disagree, but just please listen to me. And there's this lack of understanding. And so he's asking, how can I improve on this and make sure that people do actually listen?
That is a really challenging one. And it is, I think you have some good ideas there of trying to change the wording. I had a professor in college who was teaching a class called Counseling the Culturally Different. And one of the points that he made was the meaning of your communication is the message that's received. And I think you're touching on that there, that what are people hearing when I'm talking? And maybe there's a different way of expressing it. Maybe there's a different way of different attitude of taking into the consultation or into the discussion. And sometimes it just takes patience. Sometimes it just takes not being heard for a while. Because when you fight something, the thing becomes stronger. But when you allow it, when you accept what is happening and observe what is happening and respond to what is happening now, then you're much better able to interact effectively with that situation. And again, oftentimes it does take a lot of patience and a lot of not being heard. And it takes a lot of experimentation. You know, if I say it this way, what happens? If I say it this way, what happens? What is it that these people are concerned about? If I speak to those concerns, are they more able to hear what I have to say? So these are just a couple of ideas that come to my mind, but I'm sure that other people have other ideas that would be helpful too.
There's more questions. So space, okay. How do you create, and this comes from Australia, Rashmi from Australia is asked, I guess, how do you create a space where we have the whole community participate? And when I'm thinking of this question, obviously you can think in different ways. I'm thinking of physically, where do you bring them to? Does a space, physical space, have an influence? And also the other way is space. What is the space, the area where things can actually happen? What is the situation that you can create to make things happen, which you kind of touched in the previous answer? Right.
Yes, creating space it's so important because as you mentioned, there's the physical space, being able to have a room that's big enough to hold your whole community, but also how that space is arranged. Sometimes it's possible to put everybody in a circle, and that makes it easier for people to discuss, but sometimes that circle is very big. And so finding ways to allow people to express their thoughts, their views. Some communities use a talking stick kind of approach, where you have a microphone or some object that you hand from person to person. I was in one community it was the cast and crew of a large musical, and there was a gathering before the show. Everybody stood around in a circle, and the group started chanting. It was an African American community theater, and so they started chanting a chant, Umoja means unity, and that centered everybody, gathered everybody together, kind of got everybody on the same page, on the same beat almost. And then the attention went around the circle, and so each person had an opportunity to say whatever was on their heart, what was on their mind. It went all the way around the circle until everyone had a chance to speak, and then the community started chanting again, and just built up that energy. There's lots of different ways to bring large groups together, and there are a lot of groups that have developed different practices for this. There's a story harvest kind of approach where people are telling stories about their experiences in small groups, and then those groups disperse and intermix, and so then the stories get told in a different small group with other participants from other groups. So ways of mixing and matching people, and then bringing people together and sharing those stories. But I think the stories are important, our experiences are important, creating room and value for those different inputs, for people to share what is on their minds and to value it. So those are a couple of ideas.
Plenty more questions. And as you're talking about movement and so forth, there's Shala, I'm not following any order, very typical, but Shala Steve mentions body language. What about body language when you're in a consultation? How does that affect positively, negatively? Can you say something about that?
Yes, body language. And I think this goes back to those spiritual qualities when we're developing purity of motive, when we're developing radiance of spirit. I mean, that's probably even more appropriate, is when we come into the group, into the consultation, just the way that we carry ourselves conveys so much meaning to people. And it may not be the meaning you want to convey, so paying attention to how you enter the room is important. Are you entering the room with that radiance, with that love, with that joy? And even though this may be a difficult topic, or maybe this is a group that is having trouble building that unity, the way that you come into that room makes a difference. And if you can come into it with that patience, with that knowing that there's a larger spirit at play here, and tapping into that larger spirit, it helps to tap into that joy that is part of the process. Even though sometimes it gets frustrating, it's still important to connect with that spirit, connect with that joy, so that with the way that we talk, the way that we look, our face expressions, the way we cross our legs when we're sitting, all of that conveys information, conveys meaning to people. And so being conscious of how you present, how you sit, how you talk, how you look at people, whether you look them in the eye or connect with them in that nonverbal way. It's really important.
There's a question about from Jean Parker, and we're in love with consultation. We want to apply it everywhere, but she asked, are there examples of group discussions where consultation is not appropriate? Can you think of places and situations when there is not appropriate?
That's a really good question. Group discussions where consultation is not appropriate. There aren't any that are specifically coming to mind right now. I think there are ways to adapt consultation to the situation. For instance, with parents and children, obviously the parent has the responsibility, but it's still possible to consult with the children about a lot of different things. There are probably situations where it's important, where one person has responsibility, perhaps in a work situation where you've got the boss who has the authority, and but even in those situations, it's possible to use the principles of consultation, to use the elements of it that are appropriate to that situation. The end decision may rest with one person, but gathering those views from the people involved is so valuable. So I think there are modifications, perhaps, but it is a valuable tool in a lot of situations, and we can use it in all aspects of our lives.
And I wonder if maybe through repeated uses of consultation, you create an element of trust, whereby sometimes, whilst it's not so much about appropriate or appropriate, you almost need less consultation because people trust that the decision will be taken with that original spirit in mind that can go forward, perhaps. Richard Shikele, he has a question, and it's more than a question, it's a statement about truth. So he says that whilst we're all searching for truth, and the truth is important, sometimes from a consultation, a different kind of truth may come out, which is not quite the factual truth, but the truth that people would agree on and have a consensus of moving forward on. Do you have any reactions about the objective truth, group truth, real truth, the role of truth in that arises from consultation?
Yeah, this is such an interesting one because truth is one thing, but our perceptions of it are often limited. And so that's a piece of why it's important to bring people together and to have these different views, because because with a group you can look at things from different sides, and so you get closer to what the actual reality of the situation is. And sometimes a group can be off base. Sometimes maybe you've got a group that all kind of thinks the same way, and they're missing one piece out of it, and so they come to a conclusion that's not quite on top of things. But still, that's the fascinating thing about consultation, is that the unity is such an important part of it, that if the group comes to a decision and is unified about it and moves forward, then the new information will come to light. It will become clear that there's more needed, that there's another aspect of the situation we haven't considered. But and part of that is that purity of motive and that intentional seeking truth. This is the truth that we understand today. As we go forward, we're going to learn more, and we're going to understand the truth better tomorrow. And so it is a continual process, and a continual process of learning.
I think it just resonates with a comment that Wade Schwetz made, is about consultation is not just one decision, one meeting, but it's, you're taking a probe, and then you just evolve this over time. So that's definitely in that spirit. Thank you very much, Wade. Janet asks, what about when minorities are involved? Minorities that may not be involved or accustomed to sharing their opinions. It can be a gender issue, and can be a cultural thing, or just the hierarchy in the company. What strategies would you offer for those minorities, and how to involve them?
This is really, really important, really valuable, because we have structures of power in our society, and there are people who are accustomed to talking and sharing their views, and so that's a natural thing for them, and they don't sometimes realize that it's not easy for other people to do that. So in a group, it's really important to make sure that you provide space, that the group itself intentionally provides space for people to talk. And it depends on that group and who the individuals are in that group. For some, it may be important to just allow silence. For others, it may be important to ask individuals specifically, do you have something that you want to contribute? We want to hear from you. We think we value what you have to offer. So making space, listening, valuing different opinions, valuing different inputs, and on the other side, being someone who is more of an introvert. This is difficult for me sometimes, and so especially when people are talking and there's lots going on, it's hard for me to jump in and to get my voice heard. And so it is a challenge, and so finding the ways to do that, and I'm still figuring it out. I'm still trying to find the answers to those. So if anybody has some ideas, please share them. It would be helpful.
And Roger Neyman has a connected question, but slightly different. So it's, there's power in a company. There's a female boss and some employees or whatever. I'm the director and you're not. So whilst they're not, maybe everybody's sitting around the table and not the same height and everything else, there may be a perception that one person is more worth than the other person. How do you handle that? Should they be made explicit? Or, we have a consultation, but at the end of the day, I am the boss and I will go and take a decision. Or how explicit, or how do you put under the table any kind of hierarchy that may be present at the table, around the table? I don't know why I use the term table automatic for consultation. You can do it anywhere, anyway, in the park. Right.
Yeah, this is very, very important, because in different situations, it's going to be different. And again, we're all learning how to do this, and different structures are more amenable to consultation. Different structures allow for consultation better than others. And the maturity of the individuals involved allow for better consultation or not. So it really depends on the situation, on the individuals. But again, I think understanding that this is a development process. We're learning how to do this, and we're learning how to do it better. And so in your particular situation, part of it is looking for opportunities to help your group move forward, to help your group understand better. If you are the boss and you are responsible for those decisions, there are probably times when you have to make the final decision. But having that input from all of the people that work with you is going to help make your decisions much better. So again, it's a development process. We're in this learning mode of how to make this work. So finding opportunities to help your group move forward, and looking for ways to maybe have, maybe there are private conversations with individuals that help move that process forward. It's looking for opportunities. How do we keep learning? How do we keep developing? How do we keep moving?
You mentioned one of the qualities that is necessary, which is patience. I wish I had that. And so then my struggle is the balance between the consultation, the unity, and getting to some kind of output, because you may be creating some beautiful, serene, uplifting atmosphere, but time and again, we have not come to any conclusion. Is coming to a conclusion decision so important? Or maybe is creating that? I mean, how do you balance the two, and where do you put the importance in this and making impatient people like me happy?
Yeah, it is. It's a challenge. Because we do need to act, and at the same time, there are times and situations where what is actually needed is a deeper understanding of what is happening, a shared understanding. And sometimes the action is not needed right at that moment, but to understand the situation better. But other times there is action needed. And yes, it does take patience. And it is, I think part of it is developing these skills within ourselves. Part of it is the group developing those skills. But moving forward, a piece of it is that action is a part of the learning process. And consultation is about making decisions, but it's also about learning together. And if we're just always talking about the thing and not doing anything about it, we're probably not learning as much as we could be. And so if we get there, we can make it some decision. Let's make some decision and act on it and see what happens, because we can always make another decision tomorrow. We can always adjust it. We can always move it along. And so helping the group understand that action is a part of the learning process, and it's necessary.
Vargaram offers also another additional input into the hierarchical issues, and he mentions the feedback loop. So that after the meeting, there's a way by which you can go back. And I'm thinking both of it's a 360 loop feedback, so that everybody shares with each other. So there may be some interesting points there on the feedback after the consultation and how to handle that. Yes,
the feedback is really, that is a part of that cycle. It's so important. So when a group makes a decision, then you look at what happens. We act on it, and then the group come back and reflect what happened. What did we learn? What worked? What didn't work? What didn't happen? And what do we need to do next? And so, that reflection process is so important in this learning process. So we make a decision, we act on it, we come back, we reflect on what happened, how did it go, what do we need to do next, do we need to change anything, or are we good? Are we, was it a great decision and we just keep on going? That constant acting and reflecting is a part of that process.
And we have another input from Wade Chouette, more than a question, is highlighting. So he underlines that just one pass, one round, one circle rarely sufficient. Is rather many passes, and you gradually get closer to that shared truth. So he's highlighting the repeat and really understand and go deep and not stay on the superficial to I don't understand. So it must be wrong, goodbye, that's it, closed. Instead trying to have the patience to go through different layers. So my question to that is, how do you keep the energy? I agree, we need to be close to the truth one more time or one again and again. How do you keep the energy up to create that unity versus, not again situation?
Yeah. And again, that's where that tapping into that spirit that's greater than ourselves is so important, because that energy comes from that spirit. It's not just my efforts or this group's efforts. We're tapping into something that's even greater, and that's leading us forward. It's, if you watch a child learn to walk, they fall all the time, and they just get up and keep going. And so is how do we become that child again? How do we become that constant learning? Oh, well, that didn't work, let's try something else. It is building those internal reserves within us, and those internal qualities within us to keep going, to tap into that spirit, that energy that allows us to come back again even when we stumble, and figure out, how do we do it next? What's the next step?
Absolutely. And let's see, there's one more. And just because he's from Oregon, so he's a neighbor, it's probably a neighbor, so we should not forget, because I think it slipped between the cracks. I didn't mention Roger's question about goals, and really coming together and finding goals that we can all share together. How do you establish it? I mean, are there some experiences, MIT you mentioned, or in different kind of situations where this was particularly successful in establishing these shared goals?
Mm-hmm. I think a piece of that is identifying that shared vision. What is it that we all want? What is it that we all are working for? And sometimes that's sometimes it's clear in the beginning, but sometimes that has to kind of bubble up from the process, from the work, and helping people see that what they are individually wanting, working toward, connects to what the group is wanting and working toward too. That it's, again, also this development process. Sometimes groups start off and everybody's going in a different direction, and it takes time. It takes time and conscious effort to work on that. I was on a team that was like that, and it was, every single person was off in a totally different direction. And what I learned is that I needed to go into each meeting with, how do I serve? How do I serve this group in this moment at this time? What does this group need right now? Because if we expect a toddler to run a race, it's not going to work. But if we expect a toddler to take the next step, that will work. And so you need to kind of figure out where your group is at, what it's grappling with, what is needed next, and how can I best serve in this moment today.
Fantastic. And it's amazing what I keep discovering about consultation. I thought I knew a thing or two about consultation, but you really opened up a whole new set of layers and really useful inputs to go in there. There's no more questions at the moment. I wonder if you have a final closing remark, as we are just about to hit the hour, and to be together, and just such a rich new, also the questions really made it very interesting. So Sara, do you have a last phrase or mention that you would like to share?
Well, I just want to thank all of you so much. This has been such a rich experience, and I think this is what that consultative spirit is all about. You know, we have different questions, we have different perspectives, we have different ways of looking at things, and by hearing each one, we get a better understanding of what consultation is all about. And so I'm so grateful, because I was a little bit nervous putting this together. I don't have all of the information, and I don't have to. That's the beauty of it, is that all together we have the information that we need. So thank you. This has been a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Fun. And talking about having all the information that you need, I just posted once again your toolkit that people can download, and then to your book that people can enjoy. And also the fact that tomorrow we've got the second in the series of EBBF Will.Met events with Arthur taking us into a governance, global governance, I think, or a new kind of set of ideas and hope in times of crisis. Oh my word, do we need hope in times of crisis? So Sara, thank you very much. Vahid, fantastic to have your support. Boy, to make everything happen. Nikki behind us just clicking away. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you all very, very much, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow with Arthur. Thank you very much, Sara. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.